Today I'm here with Iain Morris, my business partner in Alpin, and we're going to talk about doing deals and specifically around some of the key phases that we go through when we do deals. And what I wanted to do just to kick things off is to reflect on one of those kind of milestone deals that we did over the last couple of years, Duncan Solutions. And so to kind of get us in the frame, when you're actually in that room, we were signing those documents and finally getting to the pointy end of that deal, like how did that feel?
It felt amazing. I mean, we'd worked incredibly hard on that. It had taken us over 12 months to piece that deal together. And I think the thing about the Duncan deal for us at that time, it was the first time we'd brought together all those pieces. And I guess it was the first time we'd properly put into practice the theory that all the moving parts of a deal of that size we were capable of pulling off. So yeah, when we were signing those documents at 10:30 at night in the lawyer's office, it was fantastic. And I remember walking out, and the first thing we saw in the street was a Duncan parking meter, which is the business we bought. We basically went up and hugged it because it was so exciting. So, and it's worked out to be a fantastic investment for us. So yeah, I was incredibly proud at that point.
It was a really good one. I remember we've done some since that didn't have the same kind of excitement when we got to the signing point, and you kind of get to the end of the deal, and actually because all the hard work's been done, you kind of get there and you're finally signing and you feel like fireworks should go off or something, but it's a bit of a letdown. Yeah. But that one was good. And I think also because the complexity of that one actually was right up there with the complexity of deals that both of us have done in our prior lives on a much bigger scale. You know, you had the moving parts of various stakeholders, banks were involved, counterparties, funds, there was lots of there was even a kind of separation from a parent entity and cross-border legislation we had to worry about. So quite complex. So I guess the thing that I wanted to talk today about particularly was how do you take all that complexity and boil it down into something that helps you to actually make progress and step through a deal in a kind of pragmatic way. And something that we use quite often now, and not only just for deals, even for kind of ideas we've got for business in a broader sense, kind of break down to that 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days kind of paradigm. So I just wanted to walk through each of those parts, and then if you could just kind of talk to us a bit about what it means to be in each of those stages of the process.
Yeah, I think happy to, and I think it's worth noting that Alpin hasn't always got this absolutely right. I mean, there are times when we probably haven't been through that process and we've wasted time and probably made wrong decisions. But I guess reflecting on the things that have worked in our business, and they've worked really well, have been things where we've got this right. So start with 5 minutes. So any deal or any opportunity, we think we start with 5 minutes. If it gets through that barrier, we go for 5 hours. If it gets through that barrier, we go for 5 days. If it gets through that barrier, we do it, right? So in those first 5 minutes, what do? We look at the opportunity and we say, is this business or is this investment in a space that has tailwinds? Is it something that's growing, that's moving forward, where the industry is heading in a positive direction? We have in the past invested in things where that's not the case, and it's really hard. We've made it work, but it's really, really hard. So is it fundamentally got a tailwind? The next thing is how well is that service or offering served by the business you're trying to buy or by its competitors? And if you think there's opportunity for improvement there, then that's another tick. If it's being perfectly served, then it's going to be harder to find a way in. But if you think that actually it's being there's opportunity to improve, then that's a good sign. And then I guess the third thing is, what's our angle? What are we going to do that actually moves the needle on that? If you're unable to make a real difference, then you're not going to create that value on the way through. So if you can tick those three boxes, and looking at those things, by the way, shouldn't take more than 4 minutes. It really is very quickly looking at very high level things around those opportunities. You spend 4 minutes on that, and then you spend 1 minute working out between each other what's your gut say? Does your gut say this is something we should do or not? And then you're through the first 5 minutes, and once you get into that phase, you can
move on to the next
think
bit.
about some more.
Something I reckon we did. Well, I don't know if we did it wrong, but we definitely don't do it anymore. When we first started, was our first 5 minutes was more like kind of 5 months.
Oh, shit,
like
yeah.
we would spend coming out of kind of the big end of town, we'd actually spend weeks and weeks and reams of paper and spreadsheets trying to analyse probably similar questions, but really doing it to a lot of detail.
Yeah.
Like, do you think there's something in particular about the way that we're investing, or the fact that we're investing predominantly for ourselves, or the kind of businesses that we're investing in, that mean that the approach can and should be kind of quicker than that?
Yeah, I think probably because we've got our hands on the wheel post-deal. I mean, we're very hands-on investors, so we know what our skills are and we know whether we can provide an angle or not. So there's not a whole bunch of work to do on that. I think where often larger businesses are unable to be as agile is that they do things more by committee, and they can't really just rely on a gut feeling. It needs to be something more. It needs to be something more verbose than that to get through the
and
processes
completely
they've got.
Objective, because it can't be. You don't know that that's going to be the guy or girl who's going to take it on. So it needs to fit anyone that might pick it up. Yeah,
exactly. So, so it's at that level. So I think we're fortunate because we understand each other and understand our own skill sets really well. That process can be quick, but I'd urge any organisation to know itself well enough to be able to make that
do that
call
as quick as possible
pretty quickly, because it's not. If you overcomplicate it, you'll probably get it wrong.
And like, I guess the whole 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, those aren't literal numbers, right? So it's just kind of saying that really you should spend 5 minutes on it. Now, our 5 minutes might be actually 5 minutes, whereas someone else's 5 minutes might be 8 hours.
Yeah.
But it's still putting in context the fact that it needs to be short.
Yeah, it's a short period. And if at the end of that you can't tick all three of those boxes, I truly believe there's enough opportunity out there that you should scrap it.
Just move on and find something else. Yeah. So then you've passed that hurdle, and so you've ticked those 3 boxes, and you think, you know what, this is something we should invest some more time in. What do you spend the notional 5 hours on?
Yeah, 5 hours. And I'd say, if anything, that if this is the bit that actually could be longer, and spending a little bit longer on it is worthwhile. But within 5 hours or so, you should understand the people, because at the end of the day, your ability to influence those people and your ability to improve the calibre of the people in that business, whether it be with those people or people in your own organisation, will be the difference. So I would urge, for that entire 5 hour period, to spend time with people in the business. The way we do that is obviously meet with the key people in the business, but also just try to spend time on site. So one of the things we've done lots of times before is, if you're going interstate for a meeting to go and see a business, ask if you can work from one of their workstations for the day, because you're not going to meet with them all day, but you might spend a couple of hours with them and then just sit there, and you can be working on other things, and you'll just pick up what sort of people they are they sort of, is the culture right? And I'd always say that if you feel like the culture's right and it's a culture that you could work with, that's far more important than the actual aptitude that those people have, and even the technical skill that they've got. It's far easier to teach people with the right attitude a new way of doing work than it is teaching people that might have fantastic technical skill a new culture. So that piece is really important. And so over that 5 hour period, you spend 4.5 hours on that, and the last half an hour you then say to yourself, what's my gut telling me? Can I work with these people? And do I feel like I can influence them to improve this business or not? And if at the end of that you've still got a tick, then I think
you're okay.
Because
you're right, like tick number 3, like I think an important thing that we've found is tick number 3 of the 5 minutes was what's the angle we're going to bring. And so definitely during that 5-hour period, trying to understand the people, there's an important part which is saying, can we work with them? Because of the nature of our investment profile is that we actually want to get in there and do some work. So, you know, even if the culture is okay, but there's something sticky about the way in which we'd engage, and that causes a problem, right? Because we need to get in there and get our hand on the
And it might not be them. It might not be their
might
fault.
be us.
It might be us, but we are who we are, right?
Exactly.
So if you can't work the way we need you to work, then you're better to find another partner, right? And there's plenty of
there's a bit of self-awareness there, right? Like we know that culture isn't just not going to work for us, whether or not it's right or wrong.
And we've had a few examples of that in the past as well. But I think Duncan to go back to that example, was a good one where, you know, it got through the 5 minutes pretty easily because we felt like, but actually when you sat down and spent time with them, they were people that really cared about their business, and they're people that were very passionate about their business. And I felt they were, in the main, people that were open to how we could help them continue to improve, and they were open to having a new light on the hill to aim at. And I think that I think we've been able to demonstrate that on that one, which has been great.
So you get through 5 hours, you think, the fit's going to work, the people are okay, we can work with this. We've got a way forward that we can actually leverage what we learnt in the first 5 minutes through the people that are there. So what else is there to look at that's actually going to take 5 days, and why does it take 5 days if the other bits only took you 5 hours and 5 minutes?
Well, the first two are subjective, right? So they're based on your experience and based on the things you know. You're able to make those assessments quickly because you know you. The last bit is objective. So you need to, is this business actually the business that you think it is? And you're diving deeply into customer relationships, you're diving deeply into financials, you're diving deeply into tax, you're diving deeply into insurance, you're diving deeply into all those typical, like that's your due diligence.
So it's much more technical at that point, which is why it takes more time, because there's actually work to do as opposed to kind of just general appreciation of the...
And that's where, if you don't feel like you've got the skill set to properly assess that is where you get other people in to help you, and you get them to do an objective piece of work around answering a particular question, but you probably don't get them too involved in the decisions that you've already made around the fundamentals of the opportunity, because if they're looking at it with that lens, they won't have the perspective to be able to influence you on the whole thing. I think that's sort of our job, right? That's the investor's job. But you do need to make sure that, you know, your liabilities in relation to previous contracts are covered and that's dealt with. So that's what your 5 hours is. It's that sort of deeper negotiation and really understanding what it is that you're buying. And that process does take time. It does take 5 days.
Just purely because of the volume of work you need to get through. But I guess given we'd at that point spent the 5 minutes and the 5 hours, the questions we pose to either ourselves or third parties during that can be pretty targeted.
Like, they can.
The things we're worried about is this, and this. And so therefore we want you to go deep on those questions as opposed to just tell me everything you know about their finances, for example.
That's right, because that's exactly right, because they will often get stuck down rabbit holes, which means that it won't take 5 days, it'll take 5 months. And you can't have that either. I mean, I think being authentic through the deal and working as productively and as efficiently as you can through that process really helps your chances of success as well. And I think in that 5 day period, which is where you're really working out what it is you're buying, you need to be efficient and need to be focused on the things that matter rather than things that...
And I guess at that point also, hopefully the intent is that by the time we've front-ended the people part of the equation, we've actually developed a relationship with the vendor there that during the 5 day detailed phase, we've actually got a lot more of their patience, frankly, to deal with the questions that we need to deal with, because they kind of know that our intent is right and there's a cultural fit and all that kind of stuff. Everyone's there to actually do a deal by that point. By the time you're actually investing real time and money, everyone's trying to get a deal done. People aren't still just kind of sniffing each other out. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And again, to go back to the Duncan example, I think the reason why we were successful in that deal was for a range of things, but being targeted through that detailed DD phase and focusing on the things that mattered and ensuring that they were covered meant that the deal was a good deal, but it was a fair deal, right? So, and it meant that we were able to solve a problem for the vendor quickly, which is what he needed. So, so I think that was another good example, but definitely keeping targeted through that process is important.
Yeah. So I reckon, I guess the overall summary then is that the thing that can be quite complex in deals like this, particularly at the smaller end of the market where information is bad, frankly, relative to what you might get with the quality of information at the big end of the market, breaking it into these phases and only investing time and money kind of incrementally as you continue to prove up the concept helps us to sort of stay focused on the things we want to do and quickly sideline the things that aren't working for us. But at the same time, focusing on that people part early so that when we've got everyone on the journey along the way, so that then they can take part.
Yeah, and I think, anecdotally, if we looked at each deal we've done, we have literally looked at hundreds and hundreds of opportunities, and we've only done 5 or 6 deals, right, out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of opportunities. And if you're not really efficient through that process and only spend 5 days on the things that you think
might actually happen,
it's only then that you'll get any sort of sensible conversion on these things. So I think this 5-5-5 process is fundamental to our business.
Yep. So in summary, 5 minutes, it's all about looking at the market, whether it's heading in the right direction, looking at how that market's being served and seeing what your angle might be. And then in the third point in 5 minutes is what can we do to actually make a difference. And then pass all those 3 tests, spend 5 hours basically with the people. Is there going to be a fit? Can we work with them? Can they work with us? Is that all going to work? And then if all of that passes, then spend 5 days actually getting into the detail of the business and confirming that it is what it says on the box.
Make sure
with some targeted questions, and then get to the point where we get to the execution.
Got it.
Cool. Done. Thanks very much.